Hey there everyone, this is Joe in General, your resident reason and evidence enthusiast. It is Friday the 12th of January 2018 and I'm continuing what I'm going to call my Festivus of Analysis. Since coming back from holidays over the Christmas New Year's period, I've done a couple of videos so far looking at 4 coins per video, and so I'm going to continue doing that today. The 4 coins I'm going to look at happen to be Tron, Substratum, Cardano, and finally Neo. Now, if any time that you want to skip ahead to your favorite coin, I'll put a link to the time codes in the info section of the YouTube page and as part of the pinned comment. Of course, welcome to my new subscribers. Total now of 7,921. If you want to join the family, hit the big red subscribe button right there. I've had a number of new additions to the subscriber family in the last couple of days doing these videos. And if you haven't watched this video right here, I've got a new addition, well, I'm about to, well, soon to be, and a new addition to my family. I'm going to be a father for the first time, so I announced that in this video right here. I also happen to give a bit of general cryptocurrency advice for 2018. You may want to check that one out. Before we move on to looking at the individual coins, just want to talk about the sea of red that we've been experiencing over the last 48 hours, and it's due not all in part, that's a word, that's a phrase, not all due to this following thing, but I think in major part to the South Korean FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's right, there was some whole heap of articles, particularly the one on CNBC that came out and said South Korea is banning cryptocurrency exchanges. Well, that's not quite the case. So this is from techcrunch.com, posted about 14 hours ago by John Russell. And this states South Korea may or may not ban Bitcoin exchanges, and that's the news. That's really the news. Yeah, they may not. So let's quickly have a read of this. The price of Bitcoin and other cryptos dropped significantly today off the back of news that South Korea's government might ban trading exchanges. As ever in the world of crypto, and I agree, the slightest ripple, pardon the pun, of information can be taken out of context, and that appears to be the case here. I absolutely agree. So Reuters reported comments from Korean Justice Minister Park Sang-ki, who claimed his ministry is basically preparing a bill to ban cryptocurrency through exchanges, following enough discussion with a range of government agencies, including the Finance Ministry. So as Reuters points out itself, any draft legislation would require the approval of Parliament, which could take months, if not years. So if that were to happen, the timing seems off with local elections upcoming this year, and Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other coins hugely popular among young people in Korea. So basically, they've come out and said, we're preparing a bill to ban cryptocurrency trading through exchanges in Korea. But this, this might take, it's got to be passed through, the Parliament and whatever their version of Parliament is. The bill might not be approved, and the path to approval or disapproval could take months or years. So, but CNBC, as I get tongue-tied, came out and said, just basically a blanket title, South Korea are banning crypto exchanges. Then other people jumped on board to sort of report that, and that's created some FUD, some fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I'm very positive there would have to have been some cryptocurrency holders who, maybe have some of the big players in the cryptocurrency world, maybe people behind the scenes who maybe have access to, mainstream media, etc. And they may be, pumping the fact that South Korea might be, or South Korea are banning cryptocurrencies in the effort or in the hope that people who are not as adverse with cryptocurrencies and the whole FUD thing, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that they might sell out of their positions, and then those people who are helping to create the FUD can buy back at these bargain basement prices. And this has, in my opinion, seemed to have happened. So there has been a lot of a sell-off that'll be due to a lot of people falling for the FUD and selling a whole bunch of their cryptos. But for you and me, that is a great buying opportunity. So I've certainly done a little bit of that over the last 24 hours, and I have purchased at least one of the cryptos that I'm going to talk about today, and that happens to be the first one. Let's talk about Tron. I have just recently gotten a position into Tron. I hadn't had one previously, and I've gotten in around about this kind of area after we've seen this dip. And I should make mention, all these 4 coins, Tron, Substratum, Cardano, and Neo, I all have positions in. So you should always presume that I'm trying to pump the price. When I talk about these cryptos, I'm trying to pump the price in order for my own personal gain. So always take what I say with a grain of salt. Of course, you know, you should do your own research and don't take anything I say as financial advice. Just kind of assume that I'm trying to scam you. Maybe that's, you know, what you should, you know, go ahead with. But anyway, here we are with the Tron. Now, all of these I'm talking about today are priced in Bitcoin. I'm not going to talk about them in their USD or in their, you know, their fiat currency value. But we've come up this low right down in Satoshis. I mean, right down here. I mean, if you bought down here, or if you got in the ICO and it's around this sort of 15, 16 Satoshi mark, and you rode the wave and sold all the way up here to the high of about 2000, 2050 Satoshi, well, congratulations to you. You've done a really good trade, but that's not going to be most people. We had this high here of 2050, and with this, I think it was, you know, we had quite an exponential rise up to here, plus the South Korea FUD, I think, helped people to, you know, decide to take some profits here, and we've seen a retracement all the way back down. It's definitely past the 50% mark, all the way down to roughly 700. So from 2000 to 700, over a 50% retracement. So here's the question: where are we going from here? Now, in my opinion, all of these 4 coins, once again, I am personally in, and I do think they will all break previous all-time highs, and they will continue to make highs throughout 2018. So the general bias is to the upside, okay? But we'll just talk about what might happen in the short term. Could we come back down? Where would we come back down to? And what's our next sort of major up targets? So let's take this out to maybe the 4-hour. This is the Binance exchange price of Tron compared to its Bitcoin ratio right there. And this is where we're hovering right now at around about 817. Let's head over to the Binance website. And what you'll see here is quite a large buy wall right here. If you check it right down here, check it. If you see right down here, you can't see it right here, but at 800 Satoshi right there, there's currently about a 50 Bitcoin worth of orders at 800. Oh, there we go, 45. It's just popped up there. 45 Bitcoin worth at 800, 34 Bitcoin worth at 803, 12 Bitcoin worth at 807. So you've got a hell of a lot of Bitcoin here, a big buy wall forming. So people seem pretty confident at this stage that they're happy to buy at that 800 or no lower than that 800 price. Or a lot of people are confident that it's not going to go lower than the 800 price. And that's kind of where we're just sitting a little bit above that at the moment. And that could be due to the fact that we've just seemed to have broken a little trend line. So let's have a quick look at that. Let's go right there. Again, this is the tradingview.com website. You can do all this sort of charting yourself as well. So we definitely broke that trend line, but I think traders are probably looking at this one right here and the fact that we've broken through there. Now, of course, I can't read other traders' minds, but that's what I would have been looking at personally. Let's maybe go to the 1 hour and you can see that a little easier. As you can see, broken through this trend line right here, and it seems like we're in a consolidation through time at the moment. So I think for me, the bias right now is that we probably won't, and again, I'm going to give this a more than 50% likelihood that we will not be seeing lower prices from here. However, if we do chew through all of this Bitcoin worth down here at 800 and we head lower than that, where could we head to? Well, you've got this major trend line right here. Again, this is on the 1 hour time frame. You've got this major trend line going through a lot of the bottom prices, the low ends right here. So we could potentially come back to meet this trend line at some point. It might not happen straight away. It could happen all the way back here towards maybe, you know, the end of January. You never know, it could happen. But right now my bias is to stick around this area here as we test this support level of 800. Now look at that, now 10 Bitcoin worth now at 817. So it seems like the buy pressure right now is seeming to mount towards the upside. And of course, I could be wrong, and that's not financial advice. But I think we are moving higher more likely to move higher than move lower at the moment. So let's talk about the prices that we would need to battle through before we break the all-time high and then head further from there. Let's do a little bit of Fibonacci analysis. Probably don't even need the fib at the moment, but it's always a little bit helpful. Let's look at it right there. Well, you've got that, definitely got that, where are we, right here. You've got that, well, what was a resistance level right here. If I put that line in right there, you're talking at about 1300. So we might come up to there and see a little bit of resistance, quite possibly. And the next area of resistance moving up from that 1300 area, it might settle around this kind of area here. That's the 50% mark of about 1370 Satoshi. But moving up from here, you've got the 61.8 at about 1500 Satoshi, and up from there, the 78.6 at 1760 Satoshi. And of course, you've got the all-time high at 2050, roughly. In general, what tends to happen, and you can tell me if your experience is different, but in general, when we start coming up to an all-time high, we don't usually spend a lot of time around here, as in we don't have a major retracement back down once we hit the all-time high. We just sort of kind of knock on its door. So I don't expect once we hit here that we'll spend a lot of time here if the bias, which I think it is for 2018, is to the upside. So once we hit here, you might sort of see it knock on the door for a little bit and then move higher. When that is, I don't know, and I'm not going to give you a time frame. If I'm talking really conservatively, geez, in the next 3 months. Let's say that's probably going to be earlier than that, but let's just say in the next 3 months we'll break that high. It's probably going to come a lot sooner, but let's just let me sit on the fence on that one. So breaking up from here, from the all-time high after, get rid of that, after 2050, the next significant levels, according to this linear Fibonacci, from this high and this low. So it's according to those. It doesn't mean it is going to be the case, but just according to those. You've got the next significant level at the 1.618 Fibonacci extension point, from this high and this low, at 2,896 roughly. You could comfortably call that, I guess, the 3,000 mark. I think kind of around this general area here. We could come up to maybe 3,000 or a little bit around here before we see a retracement back to the old high. In general, we do usually see a retracement back to previous significant highs. Moving up from here, you've got the 2.72 level at 3,090, roughly got 3,800 Satoshi, and the 2.618 at 4,260 Satoshi, call it, 4,400 Satoshi if you like. And finally, and this is usually the last one I talk about before going even higher than that, I just kind of leave it at the 4.236 when I talk about Fibonacci extension points. Up from here is the 6,470, call it 6,500 Satoshi, but more likely than not, you would see a rise up to either this area here, the 1.618, or this anywhere, and I know it's a bit of a sitting on the fence, but anywhere between really the 1.618 here and the 2.618. But more likely, I think, at this stage, a touch of here before a little bit of a retracement and possibly heading back down to the all-time high of 2,000. So that is my opinion on Tron at the moment. As again, I just got in a small position around about here, a very small position into Tron since we had that dip. And let's keep an eye. If you want to head over to Binance.com, you can pop in the TRX ticker, as I'll call it, TRX code for Tron. You can check out the buy order. The buy orders right here. If you click on depth right there, that's the candlesticks chart, and then you click on the depth and you can see if that buy wall is still in place after watching this video however long down the track. But as you can see, again right here, 45 Bitcoin worth, 33 Bitcoin worth there, 12 there, and 10 there. So that's a hell of a lot that we would need to chew through before we see lower prices. So again, once more, bias at the moment to the upside. So that is Tron. I'm going to move straight on to Substratum. This is one that I bought at the ICO. Now, to give you a heads up, I'm still in a little bit of my position, but I actually sold quite a lot of it. And mistakenly sold it, but I sold it to buy some more Litecoin when we had that dip in Litecoin, last chance to load up, and I talked about a lot of different ones that had a bit of a dip, and I bought some more Litecoin, and to buy some more Litecoin, I sold out of a decent portion of my Substratum that I had bought at the ICO. So I'd seen quite a decent gain. I didn't sell obviously all the way up here. I think it may have been close to here, quite possibly. So I did miss the train when it hit all the way up here. Well, I didn't miss the train entirely because I still had a little bit. I think I sold about 80% of my sub to buy more Litecoin. So I still have some sub, again, as I said, originally from the ICO, so I'm just riding that wave at the moment. I have not bought any more with this dip, though. I'm happy to leave it at that for now, but I had some requests to look at Substratum, so I always like to do requests when I can. So we've come up to this high in, again, priced against Bitcoin. It's the Binance exchange, to the high of roughly 22,000 Satoshi. And we've had a recent dip like we've seen with the Sea of Red, like many other cryptos, all the way back down to about 13,000 Satoshi. Now let's pop this onto the 4-hour time frame. And you can see some trend lines here that I have drawn in. You can see a very clear, at the moment, very clear trend channel. So a trend line popping through this high, and then through these lows, and then we recently came down to test this trend line. I had this drawn in here before we posted this low, so I just drew it through there, and it formed this trend line right here, and we've come down to meet that, yet to have a significant breakdown below that trend line, which would indicate to me at the moment that we will not see lower prices unless we do start seeing that pop down through here. That's when I would say that we may see some further retracement. And if we move further down here, we may come to visit this trend line right here through this low and these lows right here, a bit of a longer term trend line. And if we do break down from here, it all depends on when it hits. If it was to hit it within the next 24 hours, for example, you could see it come down to about your 10,000 Satoshi mark roughly. But if we don't do it, if we kind of travel around and sort of consolidate through time up and down, and then eventually we hit it, it might not hit it till later on in January, and it could be at, closer to 12,000, for example. So it really depends on when it hits that trend line, if it hits that trend line. But at the moment, it's not looking like that yet until proven otherwise. We've got to see it break through there significantly. So we may see this trend channel continue for a little bit. We may see it, sort of come back up here, test the waters back up here, and then possibly back down for a little bit. We may see that just in that trend channel for a little bit if we don't see another large price rise. As I said before, all of these coins I think will see higher prices in 2018. So let's do a quick bit of Fibonacci analysis again for some medium-term upward targets. Again, I'm going to just take it from this high and this recent low. So this isn't going to be the full-on Substratum prediction for all of 2018, just more of a short to medium-term level. So right here, you've got the 1.618 at roughly 27,000 Satoshi is where we could come up to before we see a retracement back to the old high, which we would usually, definitely, as I've mentioned before, we definitely usually come back to a previous old high. So you could see it come up to there, which you never know, it could be around this kind of coinciding with this trend line right here. So it could happen, around about this area. What's that? It's around about the 15th of January, roughly. So, that would be a nice little jigsaw puzzle fit right there if we happen to sort of bump up and down through these Fibonacci levels right here and then break the old high and then come up around about here. I'm not saying it's going to do that at all. It'd just be kind of cool if we did it right there. But moving higher from here, I do definitely think, though, this trend line right here is going to be a level of resistance. It just depends when it hits. But moving up from here in the short to medium term, the next level, you've got the 2.272 at about 33,000 Satoshi, and then the 2.618 at 35 to 36,000 Satoshi. And again, I just like to mention the 4.236 as a little bit of a further down the track upward target, and you've currently got that at the roughly 50,000 Satoshi mark. But what you might see, again, the pattern could occur where we come up maybe around this area, it sort of coincides roughly with this trend line. Then we see a retracement back to the old high, and then eventually we break it again, maybe knocking on this door and then breaking up again. And once we break through this trend line significantly, then you'll find that when we retrace, this trend line may become support from there on. You never know. So just a lot of things to consider with the trend analysis for Substratum. So keep all those in mind. And of course, do not take my word for anything, and you should be doing your own charting as well. So head over to tradingview.com and you know, pop in the code and maybe put in these similar lines. If you want to copy my stuff, that's completely fine too. And you know, keep doing your own research as well. Don't just rely on me. Listen to all and follow none. So ladies and gentlemen, that is Substratum, and let's move on to Cardano. Similar kind of setup to Substratum. Let's just go back here. You may have just skipped to Cardano, and now I'm talking about Substratum, but just look at the similar kind of pattern. Not exact, but kind of similar-ish, right? One rise, two rise, second large rise, and then a retracement. You've got a one rise, second rise, larger rise, and a retracement. Not exact, but kind of similar. Here on Cardano, we have, again, talking about it in terms of its relation to Bitcoin, and this time it happens to be the Bittrex exchange price. Cardano, I did not get in on Cardano. If on its ICO, I'm pretty sure there would have been an ICO, but I didn't get in on it then. I kind of bought it around about here, I believe it was, around about this kind of area before it had its breakout to the upside. And I'm still in the position. As I mentioned, I'm in all four of these coins. So we've had a rise up to almost 10,000 Satoshi. It's kind of 10,000's around about here. So we missed the mark. We came up to about 9,200 Satoshi. And again, you know, it seems like a little bit overextended. Plus we had the South Korea FUD. So that's what's also caused part of the retracement, all the way back down from 9,200 Satoshi down to about 4,000 Satoshi. That's a pretty decent retracement, a little bit over 50%. So it might be a time to load up a little bit on Cardano as well. I think this is one that will do very well in 2018. As I've said, just repeating myself, all four of these coins I think will do well in 2018. Just my opinion, not financial advice. So as you can see here, some trend lines drawn in. I had from this old high to this old high, and you see it's going right through there, and we've come back. We've broken down, but we quickly came back up, and we're kind of hovering around this trend line right now, and it's at the moment, it is support. So let's look at this maybe on the 4 hour. If you can hear some kind of static and noise in the background, that's the fan on my laptop. It is summer here in Australia. It's kind of a hot day, so I've got the fan whirring, so I hope you guys don't mind that. But let's check a look. Let's check out and take a look at this area right here. You can definitely see it's an area of support, a quick dip below this trend line, but quickly back up, which would indicate that the buyers are mostly in control of the market. Some people were snapping up a bargain right down here. So hovering around this trend line. If we were to break down further, where could we break down to? I think for me, the bias is to the upside, but we always have to talk about the moves down. Well, the next level is coming down to meet this old high here, roughly at about 32,000 Satoshi. Now, what you might notice though, is technically we have had a retest of this area right here, punching into maybe the 1 hour. You can see it right there. See that? So we had this high here of 3,200. We broke through it, came up to about 3,900, and we have technically had a retest here. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we will have a retest, or we have to have a retest now to this 32,000 Satoshi mark, in my opinion, of course, and I could be wrong. Let me pop that back maybe on the 4 hour. So we could potentially, though, if we are going to break down, that would be the next logical level of 32,000, and that might coincide roughly with this trend line here, but I think this one, I think I'm going to get rid of that. I think that's not particularly in play at the moment. Plus, I don't think at this stage that again, I could be wrong, but I don't think Cardano is going to go through a full market cycle where we come all the way back down to this long-term bottom end trend line. I don't think we're there yet with Cardano. I think we may have a ways to go first, moving higher from here before we see a large market cycle have a complete pattern. Of course, I could be wrong on that, so we'll have to wait for the reason and evidence to come in before we make a determination on that. But at this stage, I think that we will see higher prices from here. Moving up from here, what's the resistance points? We have this little trend line here. I'll call that still in play for now. It might be a little term, sort of a small term resistance level. It's going through these little points here, particularly this support level right here. So maybe this could be a little bit of a trend channel. We bounce off here and come up to around this level here, and it depends when we hit it. So you're talking around about between sort of 6,000 Satoshi, could be anywhere up to say 6,500 Satoshi, and that happens to coincide with this previous resistance level right there. So anywhere kind of from here to here could be an area of resistance before we eventually move higher. And moving up from here, let's do some Fibonacci analysis. You guys know I like that. Again, from this high, and we'll take it from this low. Okay, and you can see here, around about that $6,500 level. Let me get rid of that. Around about that $6,500 level. It's actually technically it's 6,600 something. You've got the 50% Fibonacci level from this high and this low. Moving up from here, you've got the 61.8 level at about 7,200 Satoshi, the 78.6 level at 8,000 Satoshi, and of course you've got the all-time high at that 9,200. Moving up from the 9,200, you have the 1.618 extension of about 12,400 Satoshi. Now, coming up from there, you'll have the slightly psychological value of 10,000 Satoshi, but that's like all the way down here. And because we hit 9,200, I think that 10,000 Satoshi level is not going to really be any kind of resistance level at all. That's my opinion. I think we'd have to come at least up to this 1.618 level to see a decent retracement afterwards. So that $12,000 level, 12,000 Satoshi level is around about where I think it could hit before we have a retracement back down to the old high. As I said, we do generally visit old highs. I know I'm repeating myself in all of these, but this is just in case you've skipped ahead to this particular coin and you haven't listened to the other ones. Okay, so apologies for repeating myself, but it needs to be done. And moving up from the 1.618, excuse me, we have the 2.72 here at about 15,700 Satoshi, the 2.618 at 17,500 Satoshi, and as I like to mention, the 4.236 at around about your 25,800 Satoshi. That's a little bit down the track though. If we're talking short term, next level, in my opinion, is either going to be the 1.618 here, 12,000, or coming up to this kind of area here to the 15 to maybe to the 17,000 Satoshi mark, but more likely than not around about this 1.618 at 12,000 Satoshi before a retracement back to the old high. That is Cardano. I'm still in the position as I mentioned, so I think there are some very good things happening for Cardano, and as I said before, all the cryptos in 2018 that I am mentioning. That is Cardano. Let's move on to, finally, NEO. NEO is a coin that I have a position in, and we've seen some decent rises up to a high of, I'm going to, instead of calling it, 1 point whatever million Satoshi, I'm just going to say 0.014 Satoshi. So we've hit a high of 0.014 Satoshi, and all the way back down. This was back in, we're talking August of last year now, and we've had a full market cycle in NEO all the way back down to a low of 0.00185 roughly Satoshi. So that's a pretty decent retracement, and this area right here was not so much the price of NEO going down in US dollar terms, but it was the price of Bitcoin going up in US dollar terms, and that's what caused the NEO to Bitcoin ratio to drop. Okay, so it's not that NEO was dropping in price, that was Bitcoin rising in price. Makes sense? Good. So since then, definitely a new market cycle continuing up, and we've hit matched this old high here roughly at about 0.0088 Satoshi, and we've just broken through recently this trend line right here, going through this high and this little high right here. Let me go down to maybe the 4-hour time frame, and we have recently seen a little bit of retracement from that 0.009 Satoshi mark, and again that's going to be due mainly to that South Korea FUD. Check out the start of my video, the intro, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, if you've skipped ahead straight to NEO. So right down here, we've found some support, a little bit of a pierce below the 50% mark at about 0.008 Satoshi. And we're finding some support right now at around about that 50% mark, and we're still above it right now, hovering at about 0.0083 Satoshi. If we move down from here, where would we move down to? Well, you've got this trend line right here, so we could potentially, this could see a support level right here. So what I would suggest is maybe go to tradingview.com, go to the NEO ticker, NEO BTC, it's the Bittrex exchange price, and you can pop in your own trend lines, and then you can follow this price. You don't just have to come back and watch my video and sort of study the video carefully and pause it and look at the prices, etc. You can do it yourself on tradingview.com, really easy to do. But we could, if we're coming down further, that is, we could see a support level here at this trend line. Look, moving further down, I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're in a new bull market for NEO, so I'm going to call the bias is to the upside. So I'm not really going to talk about prices moving further down from here. Let's talk about moving up from here. What are the resistance levels? And we have the 61.8 again from this high and this low all the way down here. We have the 61.8 at 0.00933. roughly, so maybe a little bit of a resistance point. However, we came close enough to it here, so I don't think we'd spend much time here. It could become a level of support, but I don't think a major level of resistance. The next resistance level is here at the 78.6, the 786 Fibonacci level of 0.0113. Let's call it 0.01135, around about this kind of level here. So I think let's maybe pop this back onto the daily time frame. That's a little bit easier to see. Let me just move that. There we go, right there. So as I said, I think we'll punch through this pretty quickly, and we might see a area here around about there of that 0.00135-136 area as a level of resistance before we see another level of support. The level of support will likely be this Fibonacci level here at 0.0093, and moving up from here, of course, the old high of 0.014. And as I said in one of these previous analyses, if you've just only skipped ahead to NEO, we usually don't spend a lot of time once we've made an all-time high and we come back down and retrace significantly, and then once we come back up to it, we don't usually see it hang around here for a really long time. We don't usually see a massive retracement once we hit an all-time high. We kind of sort of knock on its door and then eventually break through it. So I think that's what will happen when we come up to the all-time high, whenever that happens to be, whether it's in the next couple of weeks or month, for example. I don't think it would be much longer than that, in my opinion. But moving up from there, breaking through the all-time high, we've got the 1.618 level at 0.0214 right here. We've got the 0.272 at 0.03 Satoshi roughly, and the 2.618 at 0.0335. And finally, we've got the, I always just like to mention the 4.236 Fibonacci level at roughly 0.05 Satoshi. That's a little bit down the track, as I mentioned about one of the other coins just before. But like I've been mentioning with the other coins, I think usually what will happen, again, I think this is a significant high, this is a significant low. We may come around to around about this area, the 1.618 area. It's not going to, maybe it won't hit it exact, but around this kind of area here, maybe a little pierce above, maybe a little bit below, before we see a retracement back to the old high. And in general, we tend, as I'm just repeating myself, I know, but we tend to revisit old highs. So maybe around this level before we come back down. Of course, I could be wrong. We could shoot straight through it and hit one of these other key Fibonacci levels. And that's why I like to mention them now, just in case. So I think that's it for NEO, and I think that's it for, well, that is it. That's the last coin to be mentioned in this video. Of course, if you want to stay abreast of the cryptocurrencies, you can join my family right here by hitting the big red subscribe button. I'm going to leave it at that, gang. Join the family, and we will speak to you soon. Oh, I've got to give my sign off, of course. Thanks, gang. Stay safe, stay informed. Speak soon.